Memory card size limitations for Garmin automotive GPS devices. The majority of them are a maximum 32 gigabyte support, but if you're going to go really old, as in pre-2012, some of them are below that, so that's what this is about. Even though this document is freely available on the internet, I'm making this video just so you know which ones you're going to run into card size limitations with and how to get around it if you can. So with that said, let's go. And this is going to cover excuse me, pretty much all of them, so as you'll see as I go through this. So we'll start with the camper and RV series, 32, 64, 32. So there's the 660, 767, 7T, 780, 785. Oh, and by the way, note that it says camera SD card slot. That's for the camera and not for the maps. On some models like the Drive Assist, the actual, it has two memory card slots. And you'll see this as I go along here. The main slot for the map data, that's a 32 gigabyte cap. But for the dash cam that's built into it, that gets bumped up to 64. But on a nerdy note here, it will still format it as FAT32 as a 64 gigabyte, which is, you can do that technically, but it's just weird that it doesn't do the FAT, what's it called, the EXT FAT or whatever it's called. It doesn't do that. It'll just do it as a FAT32 with a 64 gigabyte cap on it. It's weird. Anyway, moving on. So now we're moving into the diesel and diesel cam series. This is the trucker GPSs. Again, note that for the one with the camera in it, the camera slot has 64, but the main map is 32 gigabyte. Small note before continuing, when it says class 2 to class 10, any new card that you would buy today, they're all 10s. 10s and above, and you may see UHS, UHS1, UHS2. That just means ultra high speed. Does the Garmin actually utilize the UHS speeds? No, it doesn't. Does that mean you shouldn't buy it? No. You can go ahead and put it in because it is backwards compatible, so it's not a problem. So if you go and buy a card and it says, oh, this is a class 10 with a UHS1, yes, it will work. It will work even in the oldest of the old that support up to 32. So we'll make that note here. So we got 32 gigabyte cap with a 64 gig cap on the one with the dash cam. And this is, speaking of dash cam, this is the dash cam series. Now, this figure is the minimum it will need, and this is the maximum. So it's this second column, this one here, that you need to pay attention to. So the early ones, the 10 and the 20, that was a 32. Then on the 30, 35, 45, 54, 55, 65W up to 64. When you get up to the 46, 56, 66W and above, this is a reason that you go with the 66 over the 65. You go from a 64 gig cap up to a 512. That is a big deal. So if you got yourself one of these Garmin dash cams and you got a rather expensive, at least at the time that I'm making this video, a 500, a half a terabyte memory card, yeah, it'll support it. That is absolutely crazy that it will do it, but it will. Even the Dashcam Mini will support up to half a terabyte. That's nice. And now we move on to the Drive series. These are all 32s with the exception of the camera slot and the Drive Assist, which I mentioned a moment ago. That's a 64. These are all 32s for all the drives, all the Drive Assists, all the Drive Lux, DriveSmart, blah, 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 so on and so forth. All 32s with the exception of the Drive Assist, which bumps up to 64 just for the camera slot. I have never seen this model. Garmin DriveSmart 65 Traveler's Edition. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what differentiates it from a regular DriveSmart 65. I will have to look that up later. I've also never seen a Drive Track. I don't know. It says it's a 70, so I'm assuming a 7-inch. It exists. Garmin Speak Plus. I don't even know what that is, but it supports up to 64. GVN, I'm assuming this one is old because this is an 8 maximum. Live Series 1695, 2390, that has a 32 gig cap. Okay, now we get into the ones that most of you will know about. nuvi 30, 40, 50, 40 series, 50 series, 57, 67, and so on. 32s across the board, maximum support. Now these ones, the nuvi 200, that's really old. Really old. We're talking 2007 old. But it will support up to 32. And this is where we pay attention to this side of the column. Note that it says SD, and this one says micro SD. Well, if you do want to get a memory card for one of these really old guys, my suggestion would be to get one of those full SD cards, but just as the, what do you call it, the adapter. You'll see it if you search for it. If you search for 32 gig SD, it will come with the micro SD, but also have the case for the full SD, which will totally work in one of these. Just in case you want to take the memory card out of your 200 and put it in something else, but that something else has a micro, and the nuvi 200 has the full SD size. That's why you do that. Anyway, so these old guys, these are all ancient. Okay, 200s, 205s, 500s, 550s. I've been meaning to pick up one of these 500 or 550s. I think that is the one that's actually waterproof. I'm not certain. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's the one they build it. Oh, this thing's waterproof, and I think there's even a video online that shows it being submerged, and it still works. That's kind of cool. It is a 3.5 inch, just so you're aware. Okay, so 32, 32, 32, 32. Yep, we know all these. 32s, 32s, 32s. Okay, now these guys. The 295W and the nuvi, all the 800 series are 8s. Now what that means is that if you get one of these, you cannot take like a 16 or a 32 and format it down, using quotation fingers that you can't see, down to an 8 gigabyte. There is some guys that say, yes, it totally works when you do that. It totally does not. I've never been able to get it to work. And believe me, I know a lot about partitioning and all. It doesn't matter if you do it in Linux, Windows, Mac, whatever. Even if you partition one of these things to an 8 gigabyte, or even, let's say, a little lower, like a 7 gigabyte, and you put it in, it's like, oh yeah, will it recognize it? No, it will not. You need to get a real deal 2, 4, 6, or 8 gigabyte card, which means you have to get it used or new old stock just to recognize in one of these guys, which is the main reason I will not get one of these. I won't. But oddly enough, the nuvi 600 series, which is around about the same generation, is in here. You'll see it in a minute. If I spot it, I'll show you. That one supports up to 32. So, okay, no problem. But yeah, there it is right there. That's what I was looking for. This one supports up to 32. But the 800, 8 gigabyte, that's it. Will that support most modern maps? Well, yes, it will. That's not the issue. The issue is finding a card. You have to spend a little extra either to get used or new old stock, and that's a pain. To me, I just don't want to do that. Right. nuvi 350, 360, 370. Fine model. That one's all 32. The 5000. Most of you have probably never heard of that one. That was the, again, quotation fingers you can't see, the large model. At the time the 5000 was released, it was huge for its time. I wouldn't get one today. It's a novelty. It's kind of cool. But that thing, it was known to have problems. I would not suggest picking one up, not even for nostalgic purposes, even if you don't intend on using it. The thing is slow. It had issues with satellite reception. It was flaky. That thing was flaky. So I would avoid that one. It's cool to look at. If you want to, go ahead and look it up if you'd like. You'll be like, oh wow, that thing looks cool. And it does look cool, but it's not exactly what we would call functional. Not even in its day, it wasn't that functional. Alright, moving on. nuvi Cam. Again, camera slot, not the map slot. It says the map slot. This is both for the same model. The map slot is 32. The camera slot is 64. The Overlander, yeah, that's a newer one. That's a 64. And now the really, really old of the old of the old, the StreetPilot series. The original C300, which was pre-recorded voice only and did not have text-to-speech, 2 GB. And these are, by the way, these are all SDs. So you get a maximum of 4. And this isn't like a minimum size, this is the maximum size. I owned a C580. God, I love that thing. It was great. You know, the only reason I don't own one now is because there's no ability to import direct coordinates into the unit. That's the problem with it. If it did, I would buy one today. I honestly would. But the problem is you're stuck with address and point of interest search only. You can't put in direct coordinate, and I need that. I use it a lot, so I was like, Yes, it's true, I could go in the map source, and I could put in my waypoints that way by direct coordinate, but I want to be able to do it on the unit, and I can't with that. But the C500, God, what a great unit that was. The screen is amazing on that thing, and it's fast. So fast. You can whiz through the menu so quick on that. And the big guy here, the 7200, 7500, huge, nice, but 2 GB. You can't even fit all of the US with that. You can't do it. Now onto the motorcycle series, the Zumos. The only ones that you really have to be concerned about here are the older 450 and 550 and the 665. The 450 and 550 is 4 GB cap on an SD, not a micro SD. And then on 665 you have an 8 GB cap. The rest of them are all, you know, you go up to 32. This one says it's a 64, which is nice. I don't think it has a camera on it unless I'm mistaken, but yeah, we'll do 64. And that is it. So I think mainly for you collectors out there, especially for the ones doing the StreetPilot thing, remember these figures. And for you other guys out there wanting one of the older models, the 600, yep, 32, but the 800. And there are guys that really love those 800s. I've seen them. They're like, I'll never get rid of this. Well, you're going to have to at some point. Only get this if you can source an 8 gig card. Preferably, if you can get a pack of them, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them, do it. Like sealed, if you can find them. What is the great thing about the 800 series? Replaceable battery without having to take the case apart. That's one of the beautiful things about the 800. You can just click it out and put in a new battery. And they still make them. They still make these batteries. That's what's really good about them. So, and this is why you still see guys using it today, because the battery was able to be replaced so easily in the 800 series, which is really nice. I would avoid the live series. I'm never going to buy one, but I may do a video on it later. That has Google connected services, which are ridiculously antiquated at this point. They don't work anymore. Other than that, it's just a regular nuvi. That's what they called it, a live thing, because it had this internet connected stuff in it. And it's like, yeah, internet connected for the late 2000s, early 2010s. It's 2022 now, at the time I record this, and this is, you want to talk about obsolete and unusable? That's this guy right here. That's why I won't buy one. I do have to look up the Traveler's Edition and the Drive Track. I just want to see what they look like. I'm sure there's photos of it online. So anyway, there you go. Now you know the size limitations. If you're prospecting for older units, you can save this as a favorite bookmark, this video, if you ever need a reference.